Hey, basketball drops a tough one, but we're not going to let it steal our bug. Hugh makes a humongous addition to his off-the-field staff. And hey, what's going on with the DC search? This is episode 13 of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Five, and we are going to get knee-deep into it today, whenever you're listening to this. So before we do that, we want to give a shout out to Active Wealth Management and a special shout out to Mark. Mark is one of our listeners. Mark has been listening for a while. He reached out to Active Wealth Management. He reached out to Ford Stokes and said, hey, you know what? It's time to get my retirement plan on track. Hooked up with Ford. They got a plan working together. They're going to work together over the next couple of weeks and get everything in lined up and ready to go. So big shout out to Mark for you know what, taking the bull by the horns and saying, look, it's time to put my foot down and let Ford get me to where I need to be. So there you go. You see that Ford is definitely a guy that can help any of you. So big shout out to Mark, big shout out to Ford, Active Wealth Management. Check them out at activewealth.com. Well, guys, it finally happened. Auburn lost a conference game in basketball. Unfortunately, it just so happened to be against Alabama, at Alabama, after running off several double-digit victories in a row. Actually, all of our victories have still been double digits. So you still got that record. I guess you still got that record to hold to your name. But no, they go into Coleman Coliseum. Right off the bat, weird scenario. The lights just don't work in the arena. Big surprise, big shocker that dump has electrical problems. So they try to do their little LED light show. Lights get stuck on red, can't flip back to the white. We start the game off in the dark. Broom hits a three in the dark, and then they call a timeout, and it takes 15, 20 minutes or so to actually get it figured out. The game starts. We get on a little run. Then they have to stop the game again because the shot clock light freezes on. So then they had to turn the shot clock light completely off on both baskets for the whole rest of the game. Did not affect the outcome of the game. Just as funny, everybody jokes about Coleman Coliseum, and the jokes kind of write themselves. But no, Auburn started off just probably as bad as you could possibly play. I think they had 10 turnovers in the first half. One of seemingly a million from three. Could not shoot a three to save their life. Broom was basically the only bright spot. He played great in the first half. I'm not a huge technical basketball guy, know the X's and O's of basketball, but it seems like Alabama really extended our point guards and frustrated us, pressured us way away from the basket, got us late in the shot clock, and we didn't really have an answer for it, took a lot of panic shots, and then it seemed like the only real offense we had was either getting it to Broom, or Broom catching it and having putbacks. It was just a rough start, and then Alabama absolutely lit it up from three, which they absolutely have the ability to do. I think they hit 8 or 9 threes in the first half. They had a guy, Reitzfeld, not Reitzel. One of their they had a guy hit 4 threes. His first 4 threes he took. Griffin, that's who it was. It was Rylan Griffin. He hit 4 threes to start the game. They were just absolutely lights out. Got us all the way to a 14-point deficit. And this was, again, we've played just if you're being completely honest with yourself, we've played the worst opening conference teams that we could possibly play. It was the easiest open to the conference schedule. This was the first real test. You're lying to yourself if you say Alabama's not one of the top 4-5 teams in the conference. I would think easily top 4 team in the conference. So it's your first real test on the road, hostile environment, and first half was a big F minus. We looked shook. Believe it or not, people, even the commentators were saying it, which I wasn't a huge fan of all the stuff Jay Williams had to say, but it looked like we were tired. It looked like I don't know if were just overly hype, overly excited, even rotating 9, 10 deep. We looked tired in the first half. They got out and they would run, and they just looked like they were more aggressive, more ready to play, and we were shell-shocked a little bit in the first half. So, going into halftime, my thought was, if this comes out, if we come out in the second half and it looks something similar, I'm going to be a little bit concerned. Were we paper tigers, or was Bruce right this whole time? Saying he doesn't think we're as good as we think we are, and you come out and you play a much, much, much better half, and you have a chance to win the game late. You end up falling by 4 points, outscored them big time, like by 10 points in the second half. It was a great second half. We seemed to move the ball better. We shot the ball a little bit better, and we didn't turn it over. I think we only had 1 or 2 turnovers in the second half. This team, I've always, and it's really every Auburn team, but this team in particular, if you can shoot over 30%, 30+% from three, and you have single-digit turnovers, this team is hard to beat. And they showed that in the second half, where they shot it a little bit better from three. Not great. I think you're 20% from the game. They probably I think they hit 1 3-pointer in the first half. I think they may have hit 3 in the second half. You shot a little bit better in the second half, and you didn't turn the ball over. You protected the ball. The guards seemed to be a little bit more comfortable. That's a huge plus. Look, basketball is not really like football. Like football, it's a shorter season. Games are more impactful. So you drop one, you hurt on it for a lot longer than you really should hurt on a road basketball loss in the SEC. Road games are tough to win in conference, and we've been winning them by double digits. And you had a chance to win this one by a very, very good basketball team. Look, their record is deceiving. They've played one of the toughest schedules maybe that you could possibly play, especially out of conference. And then they've already had to play one of the best teams, probably the best team. One of the best 2 or 3 teams in the conference last Saturday, or this past Saturday. So they're a good basketball team. They're a good basketball team, and you took their best game, and you had a chance to win it late. So you build from that. You can take whatever you want from that. It's not really necessarily a moral victory, but basketball is a long season. That's a long conference season. You got plenty of time to rebound, and this is a quad 1 loss, so it doesn't really hurt you that much in your Ken Palms, your RPIs, all your rankings that you have to have to have a really good seed in the tournament. This loss doesn't really do a ton to really hinder that. Now, what do you do moving forward? Okay. We got punched in the mouth. We got a little bit of brought back down to earth. And now you got to go to the hump. You got to go to Starkville, and you got to play. You got to take on a Mississippi State team who is extremely athletic, and they're also a good basketball team, and they play tough in that arena. So the bounce back is what I'm looking for. Okay, you've faced a team. You've kind of put a little book out on how to defend you. You faced a team that kind of frustrated your point guards. They struggled. Both point guards struggled. One of the first times they've both really looked. I don't know if the right word is. I think the right word you're going for is looked vulnerable. I think the point guards looked vulnerable for the first time, maybe this season. Does Mississippi State try to emulate a little bit of that? You got to be able to you got to be able to adjust. You got to be able to bounce back. That's what Bruce does best. You saw it in the second half. I would have been a lot more concerned if the first half matched the second half, but the second half was a lot better. So hoping we just take this as a learning experience, and we don't get to a situation where we're we got the big head coming off all these victories. Maybe we're a little bit more grounded and kind of ready to go finish off this season. If you can get by Mississippi State, you've got a very favorable schedule all the way up until the end of February when you go on the road to Tennessee. So big game Saturday. Need that bounce back win, and I think we can do it. I'm curious to see what the spread comes out. Vegas is incredible. I don't think many people would have thought that this game would have been Alabama favored by 3.5 points and they won by 4. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But I'm anxious to see how that spread comes out this weekend. Kind of see what people think about us after this game. So I wouldn't hang my head. I know it's Alabama, but you know what? You get another chance to play them at home, and you'll probably beat them by 20 points at home. I mean, it's just you played your worst game, and you had a chance to win late. You shot incredibly poorly. You turned the ball over too much, but you still had a chance to take the lead late, had a chance to win the game late. You just couldn't quite do it on the road. So it is what it is. It's a long season, and I still like this team. I still like the way they play. So we'll just have to say. I hope that this game from Jalen is just an anomaly. He's been playing like a monster. He was a little bit quiet tonight, very quiet actually, compared to how he's been over the last 2 months. So hopefully he has a bounce back game along with everybody else. Broom was a monster, 25 points. So, he kind of did. He's always going to quietly be a double digit, quietly or loudly. He was a little bit loud, allowed 25 tonight, but he's going to be a quiet double digits at worst every single game. So lean on him, shoot the ball better. We should be fine. We should be fine. All right, now that we've got the anti-bug out of the way, let's get ready to bug big time, because Hugh Freeze made a big boy move this week. He made a big boy move. When you're listening to this, it was announced today that he has hired one of the top off-field player personnel. I don't even know if you call them coaches. I guess you would just call them staff, player personnel staff guys in the country from LSU. Will Redmon, he has been hired as a sort of like a recruiting GM, player personnel GM. So he's going to be essentially the head of the recruiting operation. That may sound boring. That may sound like, hey, you're just reaching for positive news. But look, this is where college football is going. Okay, these GMs are going to start being the second most important person to the head coach. I mean, it's incredible what these guys are able to do. If you've ever seen the movie Moneyball, like imagine that's kind of where college football is now. You got to have somebody that knows how to evaluate talent, knows how to put a value on that talent, and then knows how to go find the pieces to fill in the roster from the high school ranks and from the portal ranks. And Will's done it better than some of, Will's done. He's just won the essentially the off the field coach staff of the year award in 2022 for what he did at LSU. And I'll break that down a little bit more, but yeah, that's what these guys, that's why these guys are so valuable, because with all of the aspects of college football now, when you got NIL, when you got the transfer portal bringing kids in, the transfer portal kids going out, trying to retain kids. Now you can transfer as many times as you want to. You still got to recruit high school. Then you got a game plan and try to win football games. It's tough. It's tough. And guys like Will Redmon are going to be worth their weight in gold. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what he's done and what he's going to do at Auburn that I think is going to be is going to fill a huge void in our off the field staff. Okay, so Will was hired at LSU back when Brian he was hired at LSU. He helped. Think about this: when Brian Kelly came in to LSU, they had 40 scholarship players. Okay, 40 scholarship football players. that's like probation. I mean, obviously now you have the portal that you can add, so you can fill holes quickly and in numbers. So Will Redmon comes in. He evaluates a portal class, helps reel in the finishing touches on a recruiting class. And they end up winning the SEC championship. I'm not sorry, not the SEC championship, the SEC West, and played for the SEC championship in the very first year. He was the lead evaluator on Jaden Daniels. He singled out Jaden Daniels and said, "This is the guy we've got to get." They brought him in, and he won a freaking Heisman Trophy. He's unbelievable for 2 years. That's the kind of stuff that Will Redmon is going to bring to Auburn. Not only that, he also helps in coaching hires, evaluating coaches, negotiating their contracts, helping. You got that budget number that you can spend, and he figures out the way to stretch that and make it go as far as it can, and then have the most value for the dollar. That's all he does. That's what he's going to bring to this Auburn staff, and what he's going to bring to Hugh Freeze. And it's something that's going to be huge for Hugh, because of the timing of his hire, and last off season, he was hired. I think he was announced on like November 29th. Well, signing day was just a couple of weeks away. So you've got to hire a whole staff. You've got to fill out a recruiting board, and then you got signing day, and then you got to turn around and sign again in February, and then you got to go through the spring portal. Then you got to put a team together. It was really hard. He was trying to essentially manage all this whole thing by himself. So having Will come in now, he'll be able to help us in the spring portal, because inevitably we're probably going to lose some guys. I would imagine once the spring's done, depth chart shakeout, he's going to be able to use his expertise to help replace some of the losses and possibly help us find some diamonds in the rough that can help make this team make this team better. So you're going to have, I think his title is going to be essentially like GM of player personnel. He's going to be over the high school side and the portal side, but he's going to have obviously staff members underneath him there. You're going to have a high school dedicated staff. You're going to have a portal dedicated staff. And then Will is going to kind of run that whole thing. Another great thing about Will is he's got a lot of Auburn connections. I think his grandparents first met at Auburn. So they met at Auburn when it was API. So you got that there. He has a relative that has a star on the Auburn Walk of Fame. I haven't quite pinpointed who that is, but a lot of Auburn ties. And he's a guy that could be, a lifer, maybe not a lifer, but he could be a long-term guy that rides with Hugh Freeze through this. I'm sure you're going to have to fight to keep him because he's going to be a hot commodity. But this is a guy, if you take care of, he is going to be, like I said, worth his weight in gold. LSU that's tough for them. It's a tough, big loss for them. They possibly could be feeling it, that void soon. We'll have to see how that shakes out. But just the analytical, the number side of college football, that is the way that college football is moving. This is such a crucial hire. This is a organizational hire that had to be made. We're just understaffed. Okay. It was not up to snuff of where it needed to be in that short period of time that he had to assemble everything. Now he's got time to kind of sit back, analyze everything. Will's going to be absolutely massive here. A portal expert. I mean, portal is a part of life. It's a part of football moving forward. There's no way since it's out there, there's no way to reel it back in. And it's even more important than ever now because of the multiple times that kids can transfer. And then how do you manage all of that? How do you manage the kids coming in? How do you manage the kids going out? And then being able to identify dudes on the front end so that when it's time for the portal, you're able to pounce. You already know their value that you want to go after with it from an NIL perspective. You are, or whatever, you know that part of it, how they fit into the defense, how they fit into the offense, where they fit on the team. That's huge to be prepared on the front end. So we're not, treating the portal kind of like high school where it's like, let's just get one of the visits. And then, as long, if we can just get them to come visit, we got them. Well, it works way faster in the portal. A lot of times the first visit gets it. We kind of figured that out towards the end when you land, Jaron Thompson, you land Antonio Kite, and then you finally close on Percy Lewis, those 3 big additions. It's just something that I think was a little bit of a weakness that is shored up to the nth degree. And you talk about how good of a recruiter Hugh Freeze is. You're looking at the guy that was over the LSU recruiting board. Well, for the 2025 class he's leaving is the number 2 class in the country. The 2025 class that Will's leaving LSU right now is number 2 in the country. And his 2024 class was 1 spot ahead of us at number 7. This is on 247 ranking. So it's not just portal. The guy can work a high school board too. So I'm super pumped. I want to be friends with Will. That to me, that side of football, I'm just throwing this out there. I think guys like Will, Redmon, in 10 years or less are actually going to be head coaches. I think that's where football's going. I think you're going to have big time numbers guys, analytical guys that are going to be essentially GMs. They're going to be able to hire the coaches. They're going to bring in the players. I think those guys are going to eventually replace the old school coaches. And I think Will could be one of the rising stars in this. He already is one of the rising stars in this profession. We are extremely lucky to have him at Auburn. So look him up on Twitter, give him a follow, be excited. His official title will be announced soon, but that hire's official. It's being lauded across the country as one of the huge coups. That's what Football Scoop called it. A big boy move is what they said in their article. So be excited about Will, and it's just going to help bolster an already blossoming recruiting machine that Auburn has. So really, really pumped about that. We can boog over that one. So before we talk about the DC search and what's going on there, let's give a shout out to plainscoffee.com. Use coupon code TOPBUTTON, not top button, just button, not the top. I've already done. I mean, you've done this multiple times. How do you get it wrong? It's button for 10% off every single order from now until they shut the site down, which is not ever going to happen. So look, stop going to the grocery store, stop going to Sam's Club, buying in bulk. You got coffee sitting in your, old coffee in a big jar sitting in your pantry or on your counter for that's months and months old. They freshly grind your beans, your coffee beans, the day before it ships. So when it arrives, that beautiful aroma is going to be just floating from the front door into the house. But if they drop it on the front step, you're going to be able to smell it in the living room. It's that fresh. So they got a little bit of different types of flavors, different types of roasts for everyone. And if you're not a coffee guy, hey, or coffee gal, they got teas too. So check them out, plainscoffee.com. Use promo code BUTTON for 10% off. All right, so what's going on with the DC search? It seems like when it's not on a preferred timeline, when it's not on a timeline that's essentially anything longer than now, we tend to freak out. You got Chris Kiffin that you waited on, until his season was over with the Houston Texans. That ended on this past Saturday. Okay, so you're creeping in on a week now since that's been done. You've had at least some type of formal meeting, whether it be in person or over, Zoom or whatever it is they could possibly do. You've had some type of formal interaction on Tuesday. You still haven't had anything officially done yet. You got DJ Durkin, who it was almost you kind of thought he could be announced as hired based off of some of the tweets that went out on Sunday evening from typically guys that don't say stuff like that unless it's going down. Neither one of those have gone down. So what's going on? What's going on? I think the one thing we have to do is not always assume that that's the worst. You know what I mean? We haven't had anything public that either one of these guys have said no. We haven't had anything, I guess. There's nothing there's just really nothing has come out. It's been mega quiet. It kind of feels like at any point in time, a hire could just explode right out of nowhere. And we're either not expecting it or maybe we get word right before it happens, but it doesn't seem like anything is going to happen. I guess there just doesn't seem to be like a deadline timeline. And in reality, you don't necessarily have to. You're not really necessarily like under the gun to get one hired because you don't have any defensive players in the 2024 class that you're really going after that would need to meet that DC before they sign on the late signing day period. So that's not really a reason. You got Trevon that's being able to go out and visit on this evaluation period, go out on the road and recruit. So you got a stud already recruiting for you along with all the other position coaches that are going. So you know what? Just get it right. Let him get it right. Let him work it. Let him get it right. And then we're going to be, I'm sure with every candidate that's been named, even some of the candidates that are, 3 or 4 on the list are outstanding candidates. Your number 3 candidate that Hugh has a really tight connection with is Scott Simmons or Simon Simmons. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it, from SMU. I know you're thinking, oh, SMU went from like 120th in scoring defense to like 12th. It was definitely top 20 in one season under Scott Simmons, who was also Hugh's guy at Liberty. So there's a connection there as well. He's a young guy, young, fiery guy. He runs a fun, attacking style of defense, probably a lot similar to what you saw with Ron Roberts, other than, the infamous 4th and 31 with the one time we decided not to attack. But still, if you fall to Scott Simmons, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Zach Arnett, that's another name that's out there that has been talked about as, possibly having connections with this job. That would not be a bad backup plan. That wouldn't be a bad fallback either. So I feel like if you get any one of those 4, we're going to be mega, mega excited. All 4 of those dudes have something, have something positive, something great that they bring to the table. And this kind of, all of them are a little bit different, which is what I like. You kind of have a little bit of a different flavor for each. So, and regardless of who you're bringing, you're also pairing them with Charles Kelly, who's a seasoned vet who pounds the trail, who's called plays. You got Crime, Wesley McGriff, who's done the same. You got Josh Aldridge, who's a blossoming stud on the trail. You got Jeremy Garrett. You have an all-star staff already. So any one of these 4, honestly, the biggest question would be who coaches what, because different those coaches coach different things. So which one fits the best? That could be what the holdup is, trying to figure out which one fits the best with the personnel that you have. You got Chris Kiffin, who's a defensive line guy. How do him and Jeremy Garrett work together. You got DJ Durkin, who's a linebacker guy. Okay. How do him and Josh Aldridge work together? You got Scott Simmons, who is a defensive backs guy. So now you got him with two other defensive backs coach. How does that whole thing work? That could be what we're trying to figure out right now. How does the defensive coordinator, what's the best fit? The bottom line is there's no reason that you have to rush. If this is done, if you have a defensive coordinator that leaves at the end of the season, like after the Iron Bowl or something like that, and you got signing day around the corner and you're trying to close a class, you better believe you better have somebody in. You got to get after it. There's just really no sense of there's really no need to have any sense of urgency. Just get it right. That's all. And you just got to trust Hugh in this process. Honestly, I have no idea who it's going to be. Sunday night, I thought for sure it was going to be DJ Durkin. I thought that essentially the Chris Kiffin show or the Chris Kiffin courting was over. But come to find out, you have the NFL, the CBA that we talked about last show that made it to where he couldn't really talk with Hugh on an official basis until the season was over. So now it's like, how much courting do you need to do for plausible deniability that there wasn't any communication during the season? I don't know. I don't know if that's part of it as well. Like, do you need to wait a week so it doesn't necessarily look like there was any communication beforehand? Maybe. I honestly have no idea. I honestly have no clue which one of these guys it could be. And but the good news is if it's any one of those four, you should be fist pumping in the air and jumping up and down, fired up, because all four are fantastic candidates. So let's see how that shakes out. Surely it's not going to go much past this weekend. You're going to have a big visit weekend from a high school perspective. The guys have been burning up the trail. It's amazing all of the schools that you see tweet that Hugh Freeze was in town. It's unbelievable. And you know who's right with him almost every step of the way is Derek Nix, his guy that he's been trying to get for 2 years. He's got him, and he is burning up the trail with all of them are. All the guys are. You got dudes out in California. You got guys all over the place seeing as many kids as you possibly can see. And that's the name of the game. When you have these evaluation periods, when you're out there and getting after it, you got to get out there and get after it. You can't go to Mexico on a trip. You got to be out evaluating. And that's what this staff is doing. And hopefully with the addition of Will Redmon, it'll help make that even more efficient. He cannot go out and recruit, but he can design the recruiting trips, and he can put together the plans in the stops and who needs to go where the coaches just show up and go, and they have all the information. And we have hopefully hopefully he remains on staff. The high school guy that was kind of over this before, AK Magola, I think it's Magola is how you say his name. Young guy. He's awesome on the high school side of this. Hopefully that's going to be the high school guy under Will Redmon. You just got to get, a few dudes on the portal side to kind of shore that up. But just know having Will there is going to be huge, And he's that could be another thing I didn't even think of until just now. It just hit me. It could be that Will's going to have some input on the defensive coordinator side. So because that's one of the things that he did at LSU as well. So let's see how this whole thing shakes out. There's so much positive. You hear so many positive things on the recruiting trail for 2025. I know you just had Ryan Williams, who Alabama's throwing a party for getting a recommitment from a guy that's been committed to them for 3 years. So that was a big loss. From a perspective, maybe a perspective standpoint, I guess. But overall, he is a generational player, but you also had two generational maybe 4 generational in-state wide receivers that you got in this whole class. So I'll take the Freeze 4 over the Bama 1 all day long. I'll take that all day long. And I don't think it's anything you should hang your head over or anything you should really fret over. Whatever. They had to have Ryan Williams. They could not get Ryan Williams because of all of their losses. They lost over 30 guys from the portal to the portal, and that's not even counting, dudes that went to the NFL that probably could have stayed another year. So you know what? Let them celebrate a recommitment. You can have, celebrate your recommitment. This recruiting machine at Auburn is moving forward, and it's not slowing down. So y'all have a great weekend. Let's get this bounce back win on Saturday night in Starkville. We really need it. Get the momentum back going, because if you get, like I said, if you get that one, you can reel off 5 or 6 more in a row. The schedule's really favorable. So y'all have a great weekend. Let's see if some news pops, and I'll be here to talk about it next Tuesday. So appreciate it. Check me out. Follow me on Twitter at @the_Charlie_5. You can catch me obviously here Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I'll be doing the Locked On Auburn podcast still every Tuesday as well. So appreciate it again, guys. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. Have a great day. And we'll talk again on Tuesday. This is episode 13 of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.